Good afternoon. Now I'm going to upload real life full stack interview for lead position. The technology they were trying to test me was obviously team lead experience, team lead attitude, full stack Python, Flask, Nanjo, JavaScript, HTML. So vanilla JavaScript is not using any particular framework because they were not sure. So that's what it is. So basically, why should you join our network? Why should you join my program to get job? If you're a jobless, I want a better job. There is simply no other option better than me. We will get you the job, no matter what is the situation, no matter how long you have been jobless, no matter if you're in IT field or not, you want to switch field or not, doesn't matter. We will get you the jobs. And there are many reasons. I will not cover them because I have covered them, but I'll show you why. Train. Hard work will make you superhuman. We'll make you genius. We will change your environment. We will suggest you. We will provide you the right brain enhancing food which will increase your brain power drastically. It will improve memory. Why? Why do so much effort to get a job? Why want a better job, right? In UK, you can earn a lot of money. In UK, you can earn 300 to 600 pound per day. In USA, you can earn $100 to $200 per day. In India, you can earn 1 to 2 millions per year or 1 to 2 lakhs per month. Plus, we can help you get extra income as well. You can get extra contract. Usually, those are from 300 rupees to 1000 rupees. We occasionally do also give 10,000 rupees per hour contract. If you need help, we are always there. Any question, any doubts, any low, any high, we are always there for you. As a result, you will become very efficient. Almost your performance will increase 100%. You will become double, your speed, what normal industry standard is doing in 2 weeks, you can do it in 1 week. Massive performance and quality improvement. Massive, faster, able to solve unsolvable problem. If you're a manager of any company or you are already working, we can help you save 50% cost. Our consultants are super genius. They are superhuman, No matter what you're doing, no matter what is your work, we can save you 50% budget. Or better still, we can increase your revenue by 100%, twice the revenue. Why? Why automate? Why use IT? There's massive amount of requirement. 1 lakh people are dying. Humans are dying every day. US, UK are importing people like crazy. There is no shortcut. Yes, we can improve your hardware with your brain power, but we also need a proper software. So there's no shortcut. You have to work harder to get the job. When you're jobless, you have to work more harder. You have to work in many projects, not one project. When you're doing job, you're probably working in one project. But when you're out of job, you're working in 5 projects. Because you never know when your next interview comes, which project will be of value. You have to keep practicing, learning, learn new technology, change track. Till every question, every answer, you are able to answer confidently. Attitude matters. You have to show confidence. You have to show that you know. But you have to be human. You have to be friendly. You have to think like a team. You have to take lot of tests. We will give you mock tests, real life tests, more mock tests. Why? Testing, audit, right? So that you know that this program is working. How do you know this program is working? How do you know that you will get a job? You don't want to know after 6 months down the line that this program is not working for you. I want you to test it right away, whether you are improving your intelligence or not, whether you are performing better or not. That's why audit and testing and you have to see whether you're improving in aptitude test or not, whether you're increasing, your percentile is increasing or not, whether you're getting confident or not, whether you're able to answer question or not. That's why it's very important that within a week you should see improvement in your scores and everything. You will say the information is free, why do we charge money? Free information is very, very dangerous. They give you the wrong, they're not connected to real life. Basically they are auctioning. If you're not paying for the information, you are the product being sold in the market. Free information is very deadly. And plus, they will not teach you the secret. Why will they teach you the secret? Why will they give you the question which is asked in the interview? Right? Automation, ML. See, again, there's a huge amount of knowledge now. What to learn? Like there's literally one new technology coming every week in front end or even in back end, even in IT. More than one, but at least one major technology is coming every week. Which one to master? You cannot master one every week. So you have to pick and choose. You can probably master one every month, but which one to master? Why to master? So that we will help you. Which has a demand, which doesn't have a demand, which have shortage, which doesn't have a shortage. I talked about free information is bad. I still provide free assistance, right? One reason is humanity helped me to study, and that's why I'm here to help humanity. I don't want you to be denied a job, denied the knowledge just because you lack money. World help me, humanity help me, Indians help me. And hence, I am helping you. If you cannot afford the cost of the program, we will provide every possible assistance so that you can get a job. There's no shortcuts. And you have to be confident. There's no reason why you have to be jobless. There's absolutely no reason. You have to remove every reason why you should be rejected. You have to add every reason why you should be selected. And we are here to assist you, evaluate you in every step. Without further ado, I'll bring you to the real interview. Python, JavaScript, HTML, team lead. Okay? Talk to you later. Don't forget to subscribe and like, and don't forget to share. If you're already having a job, make sure that nobody remains.
Today's interview will consist of 3 different stages, 3 different parts. So first part is knowledge-based quick fire round, followed by a bit of explanatory questions around your leadership skills. And followed by a set of puzzles.
Sounds good.
So before we begin with the quick fire round, technical knowledge, I would like to check if you have do you have a necessary equipment to start on the job?
Means whatever needed, I have it. Yeah.
Do you have a Windows machine with Docker running on it?
And means I have a Windows machine, so I can install Docker on it if required.
Okay. So just to start before the technical round, could you just tell us a bit about your recent piece of work you are especially proud of?
Yes, I can just, most of my projects have been very good. So I can talk about the last project, the current project which I'm doing, which is for Ministry of Justice. It's basically managing justice allocation. I can't talk much because it's a secured, clear role. So, but it's using the same kind of technology, Python, Flask, front end. So my role there is to assemble the story board, what the team needs to do. And I'm working very closely with project manager I'm not the scrum master, but I'm working very closely to make sure that the team, we plan that, so we have a sprint, 2-week sprint planning. So we plan the sprint currently, and we take the right amount of work which we can do in the next sprint. And then obviously it's people's. I start working along with a lot of people, and as people start reviewing, done the code, I start reviewing the code, as well as somebody has to even review my code. So my codes also get reviewed, and then we go to testing team. We in between we do have requirement analysis where we discuss with the business what they want, or if there's a bug fixes or something, or some production issue. We also jump on that to resolve the production issue as well. So that's a day-to-day work, which I can't tell you what the project do, because as I said, it's a secure clear role. Most of my project is recently have been secured clear. Before that, I worked with Ministry of Justice. Again, it's a secure core. It's a similar kind of role, but it's a little more complex than the current role. Like here we are using predictive technology to basically defend UK. Like, we are bringing UK to 22nd century. Like, we are like worried about one COVID attack, right? Whereas you can say we are preparing for that. What if 100 viruses get loosed at the same time? How do nation cope? So some to that scale. Again, I can't discuss what the project is about because of the secure clear in nature. But it's a similar role where, as I said, it was more of AI and a lot of UI involvement with front end. Whereas the justice was more, it's basically a ledger kind of thing, but this is much more technically challenged with cutting edge futuristic technology, taking our defenses to the future. Before that, I worked for Core Filing. Core Filing is one of the tax company, which I can talk because it's a public company. Core Filing helps government accept tax return, as well as help companies like banks to file tax return. And tax filing is a very complex process. Like, some of the corporate taxes have hundreds of pages. And my role was to develop an app at the front end which user can interact, so that it can keep the changes with COVID, because of COVID, taxes were changing left and right. This law, the rules were getting attached. So a lot of changes was happening almost overnight, right? And the tax has to, furlough plan. It was launched within a week. The government has to be ready to start accepting furlough applications, right? So this was a rapid fire mode. So they already had this tax filing, which was one big chunk of XPLR file, but this was no longer good. So what we did was we made a configurable application which can be configured for any tax application. So basically, so we make the rule what is the flow for this tax return. This is a tax return for VAT. So what is the flow? How many pages this needs to have? Then every section, what are the component in it, and every component, what is the rule? So, and moment you could still use Excel and XBR and file the return, or you could start doing from interactively way. And as I said, the biggest challenge was dynamic lineage, because the law could change. Today the rule is 20%, tomorrow the rule is 25%. So how does government change it overnight from 20 to 25% return? So that was a configurable part in the UI, which admin can log in and change, say, hey, because new regulation came into effect and suddenly the tax return has become 25%, or suddenly it has become 12%. So the rules could be changed dynamically, and the moment it is applied in the production, the next filing will start taking the new regulation. So that was a very challenging, because now we are talking remember, earlier government used to take years to develop a tax filing application. And now we are talking in a week we were launching new versions of the tax application. So that was the biggest challenge, how to make it dynamically so that you don't even need to go to development. The HMRC manager, whoever is in charge, can change the rule overnight. And of course, then the banking also, who is filing, as a user, as a company, you are claiming furlough. How do you adjust to that changing requirement? And I'm sure NHS also has huge amount of challenges because obviously of the COVID.
Can you tell us more about the architecture?
Yeah. So architecture, mostly it was REST API front end application. So Python in the backend. There were quite a bit of legacy application integration as well, which is existing whatever they had. There was some component in Java. We wrote some new in Python. Some places we even have GraphQL. GraphQL is another tool where we helps not write REST API, but helps you use the existing API as it is, so that you don't have to write, because most of the APIs are already written. What was changing was the rules. So that's where GraphQL is used for dynamic REST API generation. Front end was Angular. Some cases it was React also, and some cases was vanilla as well.
Okay, thank you. I guess we'll move on to the first batch of questions now. There are going to be 15 of these, and each of those is worth the maximum of 4 points. And we'd like to get through them all in about half an hour.
Sounds good.
So maybe up to a couple of minutes each answer. And the first question is, which software development activity do you consider to be the most important, and why?
Requirement analysis, because unless we know what a requirement is, what we are developing, we cannot develop something. And based on my history of projects, this is the biggest challenge of any project. If we get the requirement correct, like if somebody asks me to write a car or a bike, it's a big requirement change, So that's the most important activity. Before you even start a story, we need to make sure the story has proper documentation, what the story wants to achieve.
Thank you. What are the benefits of having an extensive test suite?
Yeah, so there's a huge amount of benefit, especially like say it's already it's already existing team, like for present. If you want to change something, right, like a production release or something, you don't want to retest everything. So having automated testing, end-to-end integration, as well as end-to-end application in UAT environment, as well as the unit testing, goes a long way to maintain quality of code and have a faster release. We could not have a faster release, like if every time the testing team changes, like some of this application like Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Justice, a huge application, testing team manually will take at least a month to release that test thoroughly. But by automated suite, we can be done and dusted within like 4-5 hours, So it still run 4-5 hours like automated testing, so it's still a massive suite, but that helps you maintain quality. Like you're not accidentally breaking code or breaking functionality, because it may be a very subtle change, like 1-5% here, but that end line we don't know. And plus we always have new developers coming in who doesn't understand the whole code. He might change something thinking that, hey, this is just a simple 5% change, but it has downline effect. No, we don't know, because he doesn't understand the function. He was tasked to do change one page. So that's where the testing suits help, especially. So when you write new cases, you have to write your own unit test, as well as make sure you liaise with the testing team and make sure that he writes automated. So even testing team, 100% of the testing should be done automated. 100%. Yeah, you could start manually to understand what the functionality does, but you should not rely on passing the test just on manual testing. It has to be done automatically. And if there's a lot of time challenges, like sometimes the application send a mail, sometimes it sells a card. So we have to work around those issues and find a way to automate even like physical interactions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What proportion of your time do you think you should spend writing code, and why?
Writing code is probably, you can say, as a lead, I'll say my 25 to 50%, So it's 20, like 1/4 to 1/5, because it's about writing smart, not just jumping on it. And especially when you're leading a team, you need to make sure that the team is more productive. Like it's not about you and doing all the stuff. Not that we can't do it. There have been projects where I have been the sole developer, which is fine. So in that case, we write 80% or 90% of the code. But for a big team, especially especially I'm a contractor, so we want the client has a continuum. So when I gone, there will be somebody who can take care of the applications, especially like NHS or Ministry of Defense. They're always forever, perpetuity. The applications are never going away, because we need to defend. So it's very important that we groom a new team. That's why it's important to have leadership skill, so that they can continue supporting the product when I'm not there. So I will say 25 to 50%, and I explained you why.
Yeah, thank you. What is the difference between design and architecture?
Right. So architecture is kind of a goal. You can say this is I want to achieve. Like, my architecture, like I want to use a React. It's not a design. It's just saying that I'm deciding to use Angular. Deciding to use Python. I'm deciding to use Node. And it also considers a lot of design, like the infrastructure architecture. So there are a lot of architectures are very at a high level overview of what a system does, maybe data architecture. So there are many context of architecture diagrams, so we see those first. I have been an architect also for some, that's the reason I know. So we have, so that's a very high level, so you can say 6 or 7 view of the same system, but in a 6, like infrastructure architecture, data architecture, integration architecture. Whereas design is for a one particular functionality or maybe one particular component, how we do, like it could be generic design, it not be for every use story, right? But we design, like for say given an angular given a page, how do we do that? So it's a design for a very specific purpose, which could be generic, which could be reapplied to many other pattern as well, many other user story as well. So that's a different way. Design is low level, but it need not be specific to one story. It could be generic, and that's what I prefer. I prefer writing generic design document as a standard, because that way you're not wasting too much time on redesigning because every time you design you will come up with something new. It's human beings is one of the creative creature. You will, if you give it to another person, he will come up with some other new design. So that's very, very important that we discuss upfront and stick to a template, so that everybody writes the same kind of code. So that's what design also helps, right? Making sure that the people using the same methodology, whether it's a singleton pattern, whether it is this calling this, then so it's kind of.
Yeah, thank you.
Can you explain to me what is the purpose of refactoring?
Right. So the purpose of refactoring is to improve the coding or readability of the applications, or maybe maintainability of the application, or maybe how soon can we. So there is two kind of especially when people start working on the application, they just focus on delivery of what they want, and that makes the design a little bit brittle. They are using shortcut methods to achieve the business goal, and testing teams are testing what requirement is. But that means that tomorrow, if there's some changes coming in, it's become difficult to change, or maybe it is not following the right guidance, like it has memory, it uses too much memory, the patterns are not similar. So that's what refactoring is, activity to improve the code quality, as well as make it maintainability, as well as help us have faster releases. At the end of the day, world is changing, and people expecting faster release, with proper quality. It's not that I want a faster release, but then my banking application breaks down. So people doesn't want anything to break down and still want fast new functionality at a much faster pace. So that's where refactoring helps. It gives a standard and purpose to the code, as well as a pattern.
Thank you. What is technical depth?
So technical depth is like, so certain things should be done in this way. We know that this is the right way to do, but because we are running out of time, like, say applications should read a property from property file. Right now there's no need that it will change, but in future it could change. So that's, we will say, but we don't have time. So what we do is we write technical tickets, which is not a requirement ticket, because we say, hey, it is better that this portion is configurable. That's what is called technical depth. It's like a technical improvement tickets, which is lying, which we left because of time constraint. And every sprint we actually review it and see, okay, can we bring one technical depth to this sprint, so it's always, it's just not we just keep adding, we also keep taking also, but we decided every sprint what we could bring in. Oh, today this sprint I think probably because we are touching this function, let's bring in one of these which is related to that, story.
Thank you. Can you also explain what is the purpose of a framework?
So framework helps you give a template to the application. Like, the framework could be at a multiple levels. So say if you are using a framework like how do we write code, right? How do we create a new page? Like, so in these days it's possible to use component architecture, but component means we could reuse code every time we write. So first time we write code, we write the code, but the next time we do not have to write so the framework helps you, logging framework will help you log properly, say security framework for authentication, authorization framework. So that's where framework helps. Frameworks helps you speed up development time so that every story doesn't redo that same work, and we reuse most like a date framework for that example, so that's where framework, and framework is a very loose term, there's no official definition to it. So what you have in framework may be different than what I have in framework. That's what I feel like. Framework is a reusable piece of code or given a standard to a piece of software component, or maybe in the entire division as well. It need not be just one division, it could be entire division as well.
Could you describe a framework you use regularly and what makes it so useful?
Log4j, in Java, like logging framework, because we need to log stuff, and logging has couple of layer also, when we do sensitive applications. So first of all, logging helps you debug a problem when problem happens, but in other scenario it also helps you alert. So suppose logging could have a couple of levels, critical, alert, and error. So critical means the user could start getting SMS, because the moment that error happened, the user did not have to complain that, hey, NHS application is down. The NHS support guy automatically gets a SMS alert, email alert, hey, your application is broken, database is not connecting, as there's a potential. So that's where logging framework could help, and that's one of the places where extensively use logging and audit frame, and it could also act as audit framework also, where we audit stuff, right? Because say somebody changed the authorization level from 20,000 to 30,000, who did it? Suppose somebody approves, so that's where audit framework could be used. So there's logging framework, audit framework, security framework. Again, security is for security incidents and other login incident, authorization incidents, and other things like that.
So, can you tell me when would it not be appropriate to use a framework?
So considering, yes, suppose it's a very small application, so like if it is a very custom requirement, right? So you are trying to do something which is potentially no reuse value, right? It's a one-time effort because this is one guy. You will still be using a couple of framework within it, but that code framework, you are not writing framework, you are writing your own story. So it depends on if a story is very specific which has no reuse functionality, because it's a one-time stuff. We don't use framework. Means it's not that we don't use, we still use the login wherever is required, but in some cases they're like a batch program also, right, where we don't do much stuff. There is no logging because it's a patch also. But again, audit is required, so it's a very dicey situation. Like there are ad hoc requirement which we do, but it's always better to have, like if you have a security logs, you have to maintain security log. It's a standard of the organization, so it's very difficult to say, oh, I will update the database but I will bypass the logging requirement, which is like you are losing the audit history. So it's very difficult to say when not to use. I think every, like, you're changing a requirement but you're not trying to log it. So there will be some situation where you have to do stuff but I think we have to go proactively and update the stuff that, hey, this was the requirement which we did. But usually it's better to follow a standard and guidelines.
Could you describe the benefit of agile software development by comparing it to waterfall method?
Yeah, so agile is like a iterative fashion of delivering project. So waterfall is one big chunk, like 1 year project, and it's a high risk also because we don't know what's happening. Agile means we are delivering some user usable functionality to user every sprint. That's the goal of agile. So, and plus we are also tackling some of the toughest problem upfront, like login, whatever is the toughest problem. So not only we are delivering value from sprint 1, like we having the demo with the user, we could even make a cut-off release to production as well. So we could even go production because say registration is done, like suppose it's a transport application for new smart card. The registration could be launched ahead of the time before the launch because you can start getting people applications. So it helps you deliver production ready application, at least piece of the application, much faster, which also means it reduces the risk of the application because users are started using it and they started giving the feedback like, hey, this is not bad, this is good, you should better have it. So it's an interactive fashion of how we develop software, and it's become more usable because users are very tightly tied to the user what we are developing. So that's the advantage. Waterfall is like we do have 3-month or cycle release or 6-month cycle, and usually it becomes a pretty difficult, and there's a high failure rate in waterfall as well.
Thank you. Now, having said all that, can you think of any types of projects where Agile might not be an appropriate way to organize development?
Depends, like yeah, so if it is, so there are Kanban board which is like a support. If suppose you have a support ticket, right? So production support. That's Agile is not suitable because we don't know what problem is going to come, right? We use Kanban board for that, not Agile mode. Like if we're supporting a product, we don't know when the ticket will break. When will it's random. Suddenly we'll have a severe one ticket, and we have to because we are liable to support the application 24 hours. So, and if something breaks critically, if night or day, we fix it, no matter what it takes.
Could you name one common type of security threat and tell us how you